Hello and welcome back to the Apprentice 1-to-1 podcast. It is me, Mark, and this week I am bringing you a special series of episodes around National Apprenticeship Week. So for those of you who aren't aware, every year there is a celebration run through industry of apprenticeships as a whole. This isn't unique to the electrical industry. I think it's just for England, but it's the 5th to the 11th of February this year. And through the course of doing Apprentice 1-to-1 since we started in 2020, I've tried to do something to mark that as best we can. I think the very first year I did a series of podcasts with the original crew, Ricky, Sam and Neil, and this year I'm going to really break down what it means to become an electrician in 2024. The theme for this year is Skills for Life, so the kind of setting up that matrix, if you like, that an apprenticeship can really set you up for a long-term and well-established career. But we're going to focus in on the electrical industry. And I thought to start that off, I would explain a little bit about myself, just in case there is some new people coming to this podcast for these specific episodes. They're kind of pitched at school leavers and their parents, and also possibly those people who are going through retrainee routes. There is loads of episodes already on the Apprentice 1-to-1 podcast to do with finding employment, how you go about entering into industry, some of the things to expect, various interviews with people going through their training, and also employers, people of industry. It's all on there already. There's quite a big back catalogue to dig into if you are interested. So I thought I'd set out my background and explain a little bit about myself for those people who might be new to the channel. This is aimed primarily at apprentices, school leavers and their parents. There'll be bits and pieces in there for everybody, be that experienced workers and the retrainee adult learners as well. But just to set out my background, so I started as an electrician in 1997, and I've been doing it pretty much ever since at varying steps along that way. Went through an apprenticeship, done lots of other career top-up courses as well along the way. So I have a OND, HND and degree in electrical engineering. I have also done other courses that we'll speak about in other episodes on this around electrical design, inspection and testing. I've got my own small contracting company, so I employ people and have trained apprentices myself. And I run a community called Apprentice 1-to-1 that started in the first iteration of COVID way back in 2020. And it was focused on helping people find employment who'd lost their jobs, because unfortunately there was a significant amount of that going on. It was the nature of the beast of those times, and apprentices were the ones who seemed to be let go first. So yeah, we did do a bit there, and we've helped 5,000 people over that time to date into employment in various places in the electrical industry, which is pretty cool, to be fair, looking back at that. So we've got a bit of experience in guiding people towards industry. I've got experience in my own business that I've operated since 2006 in employing and training apprentices as well. And we have done other bits and pieces around industry. So the new electrical installation apprenticeship that's just kind of come out this September, I was one of the employers helping develop that standard. So the actual apprenticeship framework that you see today, I played a very small role in helping that come to fruition. So I know a little bit about how these things are supposed to work, and I thought I would share them in some short, segmented podcasts that I'm going to release one every day through the course of this week. Depending on how many episodes we get, that could be 4, it could be 7. We shall see. But I wanted to start off right at the very beginning. So that's entering the electrical industry. And it's not as complicated as it once was, but it is still a little bit tricky if you don't know where to go and what to look for. I've done a podcast on this already where I've actually shared screenshots of some of the websites I'm going to reference, and I'll pop all of them in a playlist alongside this for you to reference. There'll be a link in the description alongside this wherever you're listening or watching. But the first place I would say to go and look is the electricalcareers.co.uk website. Now that's been produced by TESP, and there is a whole segment on joining the industry that breaks it down really well into the different routes there are to qualify as an electrician in 2024 and beyond. Primarily, there is a few simplified segments. So there's the apprenticeship. There is a full-time study route. So if you're a younger person who's going into college to study full-time, there is the self-funded retrainee route, and then experienced workers. So if you've been in industry and you're looking to sort of formalise that experience into a qualification, then that'd be the option for you. So the apprenticeship is a 4.5-year programme now for the full electrical installation standard. It was 4 years. It's been kind of kicked out an extra 6 months, which I think is a good thing because there is a lot more in there now than there perhaps once was of the past. And there is a separate apprenticeship. It is different. It's not the same. And it's a domestic installation electrician. So it's based on a single phase level, working in domestic homes. And that's kind of pitched more at somebody who may be looking to go into renewables, EV charge point installations, but very focused in on the domestic sector. And the reason that's been developed, it was quite difficult for smaller contractors working in the domestic sector to offer the full range of things you needed to complete the traditional full-scale apprenticeship. And there was often little bits of fudging going on with getting experienced with three-phase, for example, or with some of the containment systems that you might use in industrial environments that you don't use in domestic. So this was kind of a way to give employers an opportunity to run apprenticeships and also people to really focus in on their career path. Because some people just want to go off and work in those domestic homes focused on renewables, EV, PV, and other people want a broad range of experience and qualifications to get into industry and then move about and do various bits and pieces. So the opportunity and options are there at the apprenticeship level. So the full-time study route, that's where you go through your level 2, level 3 technical training in a college full-time. So you will attend and take in that training, and it's basically mirroring the stuff you would do in your apprenticeship at college and with your employer in terms of the theory side of stuff. You cover a bit of the practical as well, but it's not in as much detail, I would say, because you don't have that workplace environment to go and practice what you've learned in the classroom out on site. The end of that, and this is where sometimes that route can fall down, I think there's around a 70% dropout rate, is getting the work experience at the end. So you still have to complete a workplace logbook, and you still have to do your AM2 to formally qualify as an electrician. And usually that's kind of the breakdown of that. I've gone into that in great detail on other podcasts where we've discussed this to death. But yeah, it's really difficult because employers aren't necessarily looking for people with those skill sets to kind of take through to their end of the training. They're either wanting to employ electricians or apprentices, not someone who's sort of a halfway house. And it's the same for the retrainees as well. Apprentice 1-to-1 has helped a lot of retrainees get that work experience and get qualified into industry the right way, has to be said. We're not trying to help people shortcut and sidestep what's required. It's just giving opportunity, I think, is the right phrase. But we're going to dig into all of that and how those things work in other episodes. This is just to set out the actual steps you need to take to enter industry. So as I said, there is the test website as well that has all of that detail, which breaks it down so you can go off and read that at your leisure. There'll be a link alongside this. If I remember to put them all in, I'll do my very, very best to do so. And you also need kind of a base level of qualifications to enter. I think it's changing in August 2024. So for those of you who are looking at September enrolment, it'd be worth speaking to your training provider to see exactly what is needed. But traditionally and historically, you kind of needed your GCSE grades equivalent to a C. I know they've changed to this numbered system now. I'm old school, so I'm not sure how that translates. But I'm sure if you're a younger person listening to this, you will know. So you need that C grade in your English and maths. If you don't have it, you can take a course alongside your apprenticeship. I think some colleges do it pre-entry, some will let you do it in the first year, where you can do that qualification alongside your apprenticeship, but you must attain it to complete it. It's really important to know that, so one to keep in the back of your mind that you do have some prerequisite qualifications you need to enter onto the apprenticeship and the full-time study routes as well. So check those out with your local training provider. So the other aspect of getting into the electrical industry, if you are really looking at that apprenticeship route, and that's kind of the thrust of efforts in this little series of podcasts, is you will need an employer as well. Now, we're going to dig into that in another episode. I'm going to try and keep these to sort of 10 minutes long, so you can take these in very quickly on tea breaks, coffee breaks, or whatever. These aren't going to be the usual hour-long episodes with a guest. It's specifically done in this way to try and help take the information in a way that's useful. So we'll look at that in the next episode, how you can find employment and what that actually means. But yeah, that's kind of it. And the thing to lastly point out on this is that the electrical installation apprenticeship is actually one of the gold standard green King Charles endorsed apprenticeships. So while it was going through that development process, the wonderful people at TESP and more widely around that were a big part in getting the King to recognise the electrical installation qualification as one of the things we've got his emblem on. So that's worth looking at. It's something that's really been pushed and pressed by political and royal level. Now we've got the seal of approval. This is something that's going to be big for the next decade or more. There is such a lot of exciting opportunity for those of you who are wanting to enter into the electrical industry. It's something we've not done very well over the last 15, 20 years, is recruit people to industry. I think a lot of young people are looking towards university, or they're certainly pushed towards that in school. I know I was, and that's like, God, it's a long time ago now. But yeah, I was certainly pushed towards A-levels and university rather than looking at apprenticeships as a viable and a successful option, not just the last resort option is usually pushed on through school. So yeah, it's something to be excited about. If you are a young person listening to this and you're kind of not totally sold on the idea of university and all the debts that can often come alongside it, and you want to get into all parts of industry and have a successful and vibrant career, an electrician is a great way to do it. And you don't just have to end up being an electrician. This industry is vast. It's multi-billion pound. There is job roles absolutely everywhere. So yeah, you're not tied to just working as an electrician either. So if you're a young person and you're looking at this, thinking about a sales role, marketing, even manufacturing, there's absolutely everything in this industry. It's huge. So we're going to end that one there. If you have got any questions, do drop them in alongside this podcast. I will try and answer them. There is the huge resource of people who help with Apprentice One-to-One who will be able to answer when I can't. So anything you want to ask, please do drop them in below. And as I said, coming up next is all about employment. Thank you for listening. So you've been listening to the Apprentice One-to-One podcast, and a huge shout out to our supporters and sponsors. And they are Team IMD, which is Proteus, Tamlex, Centaur, M2, and others in that group, LK Energy Switches and Controls, Modexsoft Electrical OM, Klein Tools and Superrod, Test Instrument Solutions, aka TIS, and the Installer Trades Installer Show group. We massively appreciate that support, and thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed this week's show.